In the name of the great life, let the sanctified light be glorified. Wow. Welcome, everyone. That incredible, profound invocation comes straight from an ancient Mandaean text known as the Fisher of Souls Tractate. Just hearing those words, you can instantly feel the deeply mystical, almost heavy, ancient weight of what we're unpacking today. We're exploring a worldview that's honestly just as captivating as it is complex, and we're drawing on a really fascinating bilingual analysis by researcher Alexander Maistrovoy. So if you're the kind of person who loves digging into the massive existential questions of humanity, you are absolutely in the right place.
Welcome to This Explainer, where we're going to visually map out an incredible spiritual framework. Our topic today, Gnosticism. Specifically, we're tracing the Gnostic journey from a seemingly bleak, totally unforgiving view of the world, all the way to a message of profound, transcendent spiritual hope. It's a philosophy that looks straight at the absolute darkest parts of human existence and somehow finds a brilliant light.
Okay, here's our roadmap to help us navigate this multifaceted theology. First, the enigma of Gnosticism, followed by two views of creation. Then, we'll explore being hostages of ruthless fate, discover the power of pneuma, and finally, chart the journey to the pleroma.
Let's jump right into Section 1, the enigma of Gnosticism.
Now, if you've ever looked at Gnostic texts and felt completely, utterly overwhelmed by the complexity, well, you're actually in fantastic company. It is a massive, intricate puzzle. The source text points out that Gnosticism is so diverse in its packaging that it honestly feels like several entirely different ways of perceiving the world. Even the absolute top experts, like the legendary researcher Hans Jonas, admitted that it's nearly impossible to untangle all the complex compositions of its authors. He actually compared it to the tangled, intertwined branches of an overgrown tree. But hey, don't let that intimidate you, because beneath all that tangled canopy, the core idea, the fundamental premise of Gnosticism, remains constant.
Moving on to Section 2, two views of creation.
So if our material world is deeply, inherently flawed, why is that the case? Well, there are two main schools of thought here. On one side, we have the dualistic Persian school, which includes the Manichaeans. Their view is, quite frankly blunt, the world is manifest evil, literally a direct creation of the forces of darkness. But then, on the other side, we have the monodualistic Egyptian-Syrian school. They see the world slightly differently, as a sad, tragic disruption of divine harmony. It's a situation that's deeply tragic, not just for us humans, but for the creator of matter itself, who made us in its image. But you know what? Despite these variations, the ultimate takeaway is exactly the same. This world is not our true, perfect home.
Which brings us to Section 3, hostages of ruthless fate.
If the world is a flawed creation, where does that leave us? It leaves us grappling with a very intense existential problem. And this brings us to the concept of hymarnani. In the Gnostic view, humanity is literally held hostage by this relentless, unforgiving fate. We are thrown into a world that the text describes as twilight, oppressive, cold, brutal, and sometimes insanely perverse. We don't control the terms of our physical existence, right? We are completely subjected to hymarnani.
And because of that ruthless fate, we are forced to exist in what are called the worlds of Abraxas. Just look at this chaotic system of maddening contradictions that we have to live through every single day. We're endlessly bouncing back and forth between evil and virtue, truth and lies, the sacred and the disgusting, pain and joy, birth and death. It is literally a cosmic blender of opposites. It's incredibly disorienting, and honestly, it's absolutely exhausting.
The text puts it incredibly bluntly. It says we are condemned to remain in a black hole of fear and instincts. As physical beings in this chaotic system, we're weak. We are totally defenseless against these massive cosmic forces. We're caught in a cycle, entirely at the mercy of our basic instincts and our deepest fears in this dark reality. I know, it sounds incredibly bleak, doesn't it? But stick with me here, because remember, I promised you a journey from ruthless fate all the way to a divine harbor.
And that shift starts in Section 4, pneuma, the divine spark.
All right, here is the ultimate plot twist of Gnosticism, and the real solution to all that dark existential dread. This is where the story completely turns around. Yes, physically we might be hostages, but we are armed with a secret weapon. We are endowed with pneuma, the soul. And this isn't just, the spark of biological life. This is a literal divine gift. The Gnostics believe that this pneuma has the absolute capability to transport us out of this flawed reality, to transcend that black hole of fear and actually carry us into other, higher dimensions and worlds. How amazing is that?
Because of this divine spark, we are definitely not just victims.
The text beautifully notes that we are the living bridges spanning across an endless chain of generations. Even when we feel totally driven into a corner by the ruthless laws of this material world, that inner spark, that pneuma, gives us immense hidden power. We are the vessels carrying this divine light right through the darkness of time.
Which leads us to our final destination in Section 5, Journey to the Pleroma. So, if pneuma is the vehicle, where exactly is it taking us on this epic ancient hero's journey? The destination is the Pleroma, the divine harbor. Notice how beautifully this contrasts with that dark, unforgiving fate of Hymermene we talked about earlier. The Pleroma is the ultimate destination of peace, existing entirely beyond the raging, dark elements of our material world. It is the brilliant, warm light at the very end of a very long, very cold tunnel.
This step-by-step path perfectly summarizes the agonizing but ultimately triumphant journey of the human soul in Gnostic thought. Step 1, we start out driven into a corner by those ruthless material laws. Step 2, utilizing our divine spark, we actively throw a bridge over those continuously raging dark elements. And finally, Step 3, we cross that bridge, reaching the absolute safety of the divine harbor, the Pleroma. It requires effort, sure, and awareness, but most importantly, it requires utilizing that incredible inner divine gift.
I want to take a moment to reflect on this concluding quote directly from our source text. Bitterness and pain go hand in hand with hope. This brilliantly encapsulates why the Gnostic vision is so uniquely compelling. It doesn't sugarcoat or deny the horror, the cruelty, or the pain of the world. It looks right at it. It's deeply, fundamentally sad about the state of material reality. Yet at the exact same time, it is intensely bright and profoundly hopeful about human potential and our ultimate divine destiny.
We've explored the tangled branches of this ancient philosophy, moving from the grip of relentless fate all the way to the promise of ultimate peace. So, I want to leave you with this to think about. If our world is indeed filled with both the bitter darkness of the Abraxas and the divine hope of the Pneuma, which elements are you building your bridge with today? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, for focusing in, and for learning alongside me. Keep building those bridges, and I'll see you next time.